Now, President Donald Trump has celebrated the 2025 Super Bowl champions at the White House with the Philadelphia Eagles in attendance. The team and the president were in great spirits. This is quite a departure from 2018 when President Trump cancelled the celebration for the Eagles after he was advised that most players were not planning to show up. Well, what a difference 7 years makes.
Let me just say, fly, Eagles, fly, right?
The players presented the president with his own jersey, and they even got a tour of the Oval Office with the players lining up to shake the president's hand. And Trump was certainly in good spirits. He was reminiscing about the Super Bowl and even had a little dig at Taylor Swift.
It was an incredible game, a little surprising, but right from the beginning, in the first quarter of the big game, which I was there, I watched in person. I was there along with Taylor Swift. How did that work out? How did that one work out?
I'll remind you how that worked out. One of them got massive cheers and the other one got booed. Good times. Now, there were 3 players missing from the White House celebrations. They blamed scheduling issues, like they have something better to do. One of those players, Jalen Hurts, had this pitiful response last week when asked whether he was going to be there.
Are you planning on visiting the White House next week?
Got it.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, beautifully articulated. They're so eloquent, so brave. Meanwhile, your teammates are there hobnobbing with the president and they're taking iconic selfies with his portrait. That looks like Elias Ricks there, and he declared his love for Ivanka after the White House visit. He posted this. He said, "After seeing her in person, Ivanka is exactly my type." Good luck there. Now, let's bring in Sky News contributor Kosha Gada. Kosha, we've got some serious things to discuss about the first 100 days of Donald Trump's second term, but we can't underestimate the importance of the cultural phenomenon we just saw there, the Super Bowl celebrations with the Eagles. It didn't happen in Trump's first term. That visit was cancelled. Very different dynamic now for the president.
Very different. It's almost like the story arc of his cultural comeback alongside his political comeback is almost complete. Because we've talked about everybody from the Silicon Valley titans to high finance people like Bill Ackman to Dr. Phil to the rap industry with 50 Cent to Bill Maher. And now the Super Bowl victors, the very Eagles who weren't very enthusiastic about coming last time, as you said, hobnobbing and rubbing shoulders with him. It really just shows that acceptance and rehabilitation into pop culture, if you will, of brand Trump and Trump the person has happened, and people who are still holding out, the few holdouts, like those 2 players that you mentioned, and Hollywood and others, look rather silly, I would say, at this moment in time.
Now, today is 100 days of Trump's presidency, and it has been a spectacular ride, no matter how you look at it, whether you're anti all things Trump or America first. His presidency has been remarkable. He's set a furious pace, and among his greatest achievements is addressing and solving the border crisis. The illegal immigration crisis, Kosha, is over.
It really is. It was something like, at its peak under Biden, 11,000 illegal crossings per day, and it's now down to somewhere between 200 and 300. That's virtually zero. And in just 100 days, it really is remarkable. It shows that the missing ingredient was enforcement and the political will to do enforcement, not new books, laws on the books, not comprehensive immigration reform, which is this thing that they always point to, just enforcement. That said, I think the wall, while he's shown that it's not necessary to have the wall, that is something that his base really wants because it has permanence, because all these things that he's doing now around enforcement can be undone if somebody from the other side gets back in that is more pro doing what Biden did and reopening the floodgates again.
Absolutely, and the media is making the wall a big issue. Despite the fact that the illegal immigration crisis is over, there's a lot of talk about the wall and who's going to pay for it. This is something the border czar, Tom Homan, addressed overnight.
Trump said Mexico will pay for the wall. They have in a roundabout way, have they not? Putting 10,000 military on the northern and southern border, taking the action they did, remain in Mexico. They didn't have to do that. They're doing it. Putting military on the southern border. Have moved illegal immigration to a record low. We're saving millions of dollars every day on detention, transportation, removal proceedings. We've more than made up for the cost of that wall.
Kosha, even without the wall, the border crisis is over, and it's becoming clear that the Biden administration could have stopped or at least reduced this issue, the flood of illegals coming in, more than 2 million a year under Biden. It seems like it was a choice not to address the crisis.
It's pretty undeniable because everybody can see the numbers, and that is really the conclusion that the American people are drawing, which is that they did not want to stop the crisis for whatever the reason is, that, pouring demographics in and whatever that does to the vote bank and every other issue, depending on how nefarious you want to think their motives were. It was a choice because he's proving how quickly, and this has happened, and it's the lowest it's been under any administration, going all the way back to Bush and before. So that really, really is remarkable. The wall, as I was mentioning, still has value, and that's why his base does hope that he'll go through with it. But the media nitpicking about who's paying for it and all that, they're going back to what they do on other issues that they have lost on so dramatically in the political arena. They just go to minutia and getting into these granular arguments about little issues because they've lost on the big issue and everybody can see it.
Now, having dealt with illegal immigration, the administration is focused on deporting the millions who are in the country illegally, and there are now posters of violent illegal immigrants who have been arrested right outside the press tents, Kosha. This is on the White House lawn. It's sending quite a message to the media, Kosha, because they are preoccupied with the so-called Maryland dad, the gangbanger, and they are ignoring the fact that violent criminals, killers, rapists are being arrested and deported.
This is classic Trump because the man understands media unlike anybody else. And now those posters, as you say, are going to be in the backdrop of every hit that they do, unless they try to reposition their cameras. So that's really funny. And the reason why is because he, again, has won on the issue politically. He's won with the public, and he's forcing them into a corner where they end up having to keep defending people like who you see on those posters. They look like, mugshotted criminals with tattoos on their faces. Maryland dad, the sweet student, Khalil, all these people, they're backing into defending the most indefensible people out of the bunch of illegals. And this is just a stark reminder every time they go to air. So it's going to be really funny if those posters stay up.
And despite all the relentlessly negative media about the deportation program, the polling shows that the majority of Americans are still in favour of deporting all illegal immigrants, not just those with criminal convictions. And I think that is a significant point to note. Now, the major battle right now for the president is the trade war, particularly with China. This is a long-term strategy, Kosha, but it involves a fair bit of short-term pain. You're in the US right now. Tell me how the administration's handling this difficult issue. How do you sell a policy that's all about the long-term interests of the country when you're going to suffer a little bit of short-term discomfort?
It's not easy, and he is paying a little bit of a price for it, including in his own base somewhat, but by and large, they still are trusting him and sticking with him just because the alternative, which is the status quo, has not worked for the last half century. So that's something that he can use to his advantage, that even if there's a bit of fear of the unknown over here and the short-term pain is something that's a tough pill to swallow, it's better than the alternative. He remains more popular than the opposition. He's coming to the end of his honeymoon period, but he's still in it. So this is the time to strike while the iron's hot, while he's at his peak in terms of acceptance. He's got the majority in the legislative branch, and he's got a lot of support for it. So that's why he's sticking to his broad principles while being flexible on the specifics. And you're seeing some course correction or carve outs for certain sectors or countries or A/B testing. He does get criticism for that, where people say, "Oh, look, there's no coherent strategy." But many would say that that's actually part of his strategy. Stick to the fundamentals and then be willing to course correct on the specifics as you work through your strategy.
Now, you're in DC right now, a Democrat stronghold, but let's talk about another Democrat stronghold, California, and the bluest of blue cities, San Francisco. So much of the crazy far-left ideology we see in public policy starts in California. And this latest scheme is one that is certainly raising eyebrows. They are bringing the concept of equity to speed cameras. So if you're a high-income earner and you speed, you'll pay a lot more than someone on a lower income. If you're on a low income, you get a 50% discount, Kosha. And if you speed in your car but are homeless, well, you qualify for an 80% discount. Gavin Newsom is backing this plan. The California governor is a fan. Kosha, what do you think about this equity in traffic fines?
It is so California because they just love progressive payment curves on everything from taxes to utility bills and now even speeding tickets. Everything's about income equality and you have to have this progressive curve. But why it's even more ridiculous here, because that position just doesn't make sense economically. It's actually immoral, many would say. But here it's even worse because speeding is about keeping roads safe. And there's an externality component to it, because if you have unsafe drivers that speed and do other things that are in violation of traffic laws, they're putting other people at risk on the roads on top of themselves. And so that's why the whole idea of speeding tickets is it's a mechanism to not have that or to minimize that. And then if you start segregating it, then we're basically saying that lower income people are creating greater risk on the roads for hurting somebody else. And the whole thing makes no sense.
And I can see this spreading throughout California, and some of our lawmakers here in Australia, I think, will be looking on with interest. And I nominate Victoria as the first state where this sort of proposal would be considered. Kosha Gada, thank you so much for your time tonight.